Hey everyone, I'm Chili Concos and I am here to do some tutorial stuff. I actually saw this TikTok the other day and this is what inspired me to get back on YouTube.
Oh look, a cosplay DIY tutorial. I wonder how I, an average cosplayer, can learn how to make that cosplay. For this super easy and accessible cosplay tutorial, you need 10 3D printers, 2 laser cutter machines, a team of 5 people, and a sewing machine. Oh, I have that.
I think a lot of tutorials these days about cosplay are really like tech oriented, adding lights to your cosplay, Worbla, 3D printing, materials that a lot of everyday people don't have access to. And so I kind of wanted to bridge that gap and talk about it. I actually started this panel called How to Thrift Your Cosplay. I've given this panel at a few cons and some people have come up to me and been like, it's really helpful. So I figured, why not make it a series on YouTube? Who knows if I'm gonna keep this a series. I'm trying not to put the pressure on myself so that I can just enjoy. I'm gonna have the slideshow next to me so that I can remember everything I want to say. But yeah, here is How to Thrift Your Cosplay with cosplayer Chili Concos. The number one thing that I want you to take away from this video is that the key to thrifting your cosplay is going to be thinking outside of the box. Think on the far reaches of your crafter mind. And that's something I actually love doing as a crafter, is I love pushing the boundaries of what I can use for certain projects. Like, can I just make this whole thing out of cardboard? And I do. You'll see that later. Before we get into what you thrift, there are some things that I think are pretty good staples to have around if you're going to get into cosplay. The first one is going to be a hot glue gun. It doesn't have to be a really fancy one. It can be like a kid's one. They're just a little bit slower and they don't get as hot, but it doesn't mean that they don't work. The second thing is going to be acrylic paint. Acrylic paint just sticks to basically anything that you put it on top of. You can paint plastic with it, metal with it, wood, etc. You can paint basically anything. As an alternative to spray paint or even just to paint details, acrylic paint's really good. Going with acrylic paint, you should probably just get a set of paintbrushes. These don't have to be fancy. Just a kind of variety pack of paintbrushes so that you can use that acrylic paint to the best of its ability. Along with paintbrushes and acrylic paint, I would also say Mod Podge. You can seal foam with it, you can paint paper with it. I use it for things like decoupage or collaging. It has a lot of different uses, so I would just get a thing of Mod Podge. Get a roll of craft foam. The things you can make with craft foam go a long ways. You can get these at Michael's. I think they're weeding them out a little bit. There used to be a cosplay section, but I think there's not one anymore. A lot of tutorials say you need to use contact cement for foam, but if you're doing something thin like bracers or even like a helmet, that kind of stuff can really be held together with hot glue. Talking about armor, something that a lot of people say that you should use is Worbla. I remember when I was like 16, Worbla was the big thing to use. Everyone was pumping out content about how to use Worbla to make these amazing armor builds, and they're really gorgeous, but it is super expensive. I actually have a roll of Worbla and I have barely touched it because of how difficult it is to work with. It's just really stiff and kind of sharp. You have to buy a heat gun for it, then you have to cut it out, you have to touch it when it's hot. Not to say that I'm like, beginner shouldn't use it. Use what you want to use, but I just don't think it's the easiest thing out there, and I think there's better ways to achieve what you want to achieve rather than using Worbla. Transitioning from the craft foam armor area into more textiles and fabric. Yaya Han actually came out with a line of cosplay fabrics, and one thing that everyone agrees on to anyone I've ever talked to about this line is that it's ridiculously expensive. So that begs the question, where exactly do you get fabrics and textiles if not from the fabric store? In general, I find that thrifting is sustainable, it's cheaper, and it's more accessible than like a typical Michael's or Joann's or wherever else you get your materials. There is so much fabric at thrift stores, and I'm not just talking about just like clothes, because there's a lot of way to use clothes in cosplays too and then adjust those, but sometimes thrift stores will even have just a fabric section. If they don't have a fabric section, these are the sections I recommend you go to. Bed sheets and curtains. There's just so much fabric in one set of sheets. Dresses and long skirts, yarn, scarves and jewelry, rugs, bags, and stuffed animals. Of course, you can also use the clothes. Like, that's kind of goes without saying. I would recommend to look for anything that's in the right color, even if it's like, oh, this is a t-shirt, but I need it to be a dress. Maybe it would fit as a dress on you. I would also recommend looking for things in fun textures. If you buy cosplays, a lot of them are actually 100% polyester, so they make you sweat a lot, and they all kind of have the same texture. And I think that these characters that we're cosplaying oftentimes have lots of different textures in their outfits. You can have a lot of fun with it. Other things you can look for are shoes. I've thrifted so many cosplay shoes. Found objects can also really work as any kind of prop. PVC pipe, like, can you find a big stick? Something like Madoka's bow is literally made out of branches. Don't you think it would be so cool to have an actual bow prop that looked like it was made of branches because it was made out of branches? I really wanted to do that when I wanted to cosplay Madoka. That's kind of a tabled project for now, so I don't mind if you steal it, but pretty good idea, right? Other things you can do are replace hardware with everyday engineering. For example, a nut and a bolt, something that screws together, using the top of a bottle and a bottle cap. These do screw together and they're really lightweight and really easy to hot glue onto things. Finally, this last segment is about cardboard. I am obsessed with cardboard. I love it. It's my #1 favorite crafting material. I use it for basically everything. Talk to me about cardboard. I've got lots to say. But some examples of props I've made of 100% cardboard, or actually, let's say props I've made with 99% cardboard. Diane's hammer from 7 Deadly Sins. Panty's gun, that's just lots of layers of cardboard sandwiched together. I've made a whole guitar out of cardboard and yarn. I'm currently working on Paracelsus from Guilty Gear. Other examples of cosplays that I've used thrifted items for. Feel free to pause this if you're interested. Ultimately, the reason I'm making this video is because I think cosplay is for everyone and I want everyone to be able to access such a wonderful hobby. I've had so much fun with it. It's led me to some awesome opportunities in my life. It got me into more crafts than I ever could have imagined and I absolutely love it. I really hope that you learned something from this and please leave me any questions. I really want to be able to show you guys how you can make your dream cosplays out of thrifted materials, but I don't necessarily want to make all the cosplays myself and I don't really have the time for that. Would you guys be interested if I described what you could do? I think I have a lot of really cool ideas. Thank you to this TikToker for bringing up this really important issue in the cosplay community. You can follow me on my Instagram, which is chiliconcos. Can't promise that I'll be active there, but I do pop up every now and then. Have a good one. Bye, guys.